Here's a cheeky little 2 for the price of 1 on this top tip. And if you're still running the original Freelander 2 rear shocks, then this one's for you, so listen up. If you look inside the wheel arch, the chances are you will probably see, unless it's disappeared off down the road somewhere along the time because it's perished, what is ultimately a rubber cylindrical kind of weight or something with a bolt that goes through it, which mounts it to the bottom of the shock, hanging down from the shock absorber. You see, the idea behind it, I can only assume that during development there was a rattle, buzz, frequency, something like that, which they noticed from the back of the car, and they hung these 2 fairly heavy-ish rubber weights from the bottom of the shock absorbers. Well, over time with these Freelander 2s, as you can imagine, unless it's fresh out the box or under 10,000 miles, these cars develop buzzes, frequencies, rattles across the whole car, so they're never as fresh as they're going to be due to things just aging. So when you eventually come to replace the shock absorbers on your Freelander 2, my top tip for you would be just don't worry about the rubber bungs, don't worry about transferring them over, and don't worry about buying new fresh ones to add to your new rear shock absorbers. The main reason for that is they're over £200 each, so this top tip is saving you over £400. And you can ask me, you can ask many other Freelander 2 owners that have replaced the rear shocks on their Freelander 2, and the chances are they'll all turn around and say the same thing, that don't worry about buying new ones. Not only that, that as they perish, they gain movement. So if you are hearing a knocking coming from the back of your sound and it's not the exhaust heat shield, check these weights on the back of the suspension if you're running the OEM original shocks that come from the factory, because the chances are it's moving up and down and banging while it does it. And I did say that it's 2 for the price of 1 on this one. And the second part to this top tip is when you do come to replace your rear shocks, people often ask the question of what shock absorber should I go for my Freelander 2, especially if they're looking to take this car off-road. You see, with many 4x4s out there, there's normally a bigger, beefier alternative shock absorber out there that can handle off-road activities much better. Well, if you're hoping that to be the case with the Freelander 2, then unfortunately I'm going to say you're going to be bob out of luck on that one. There is some sort of good alternatives, one being KYB. They're a good direct alternative that you can swap to, reasonably priced. The other alternative is Bilstein, whatever you want to call them. The B4 shock absorbers, they are like for like, so you're replacing them what is already on the car. They're the OEM equivalent. The other one that Bilstein did or still do, I'm not too sure on this one, is the B6, the Bilstein B6. You see, that is classed as kind of like an upgrade, but the jury's out on whether it is or not, because ultimately what it really does is just offer the Freelander 2 a firmer ride, and the jury's out on whether that's a good thing or not for the Freelander 2. And also, when it comes to the off-roading side, do you necessarily want a firmer shock? That would be my question, which I can't answer because we run KYBs with Sachs springs on our car. One word of caution though, that when you do come to replace your shocks and you are planning to take this car off-roading, and I don't mean just some gentle or medium kind of off-roading, if you're looking to do some heavy off-roading, then one word of caution that I would give you: the terrain response system on these cars can take the car to some very impressive places, but just be careful how hard you land any wheel lifts time after time, and how hard you hit some particularly severe off-roading terrain. The reason why I say this is shock absorbers, especially when they're new and fresh and they're working as they should, they're nice and stiff and firm. Well, the weak link in the chain is the shock bottoms, in the fact the shock legs, should I say. So as much as the shock absorbers on these cars are brilliant and they fit the car really well, if you slam down too hard on them too many times, or you hit any severe lumps and bumps off road too hard, eventually the shock absorber will give out. That's my 2 for the price of 1 on this top tip.